Hello, people. I'm Jade, and this story is about my horrible in-laws. Now, my story is a little different than everyone. I'm sure you have seen mothers-in-law obsessing over their sons. Well, wait, what? Why don't they like you? This is ridiculous. My mom always wanted daughters. She hated me when I was born. I guess that's why she always preferred my sister Penny over me. I was also made to compromise and got punished for the mistakes she made. My mother-in-law, Shelley, absolutely hated my husband, Saint. I had no idea that a mother could hate her child so much. Before we got engaged, my then-boyfriend, Saint, told me a lot of things. He said, "I know you want to meet my family, Jade, but my mom and sister don't really like me. I don't want you to be mistreated just because you are my girlfriend." That is horrible. Why the hell would a mother play favorites like that? You have to be kidding me. Is this why you don't have a good connection with them? Yes, Jade. My dad tries to be there for me, but mom and sis always find a way to mess up my life. Dad is the best, but the rest are not so much. I try my best to keep some contact, but I don't know how long I'll manage. Saint wasn't kidding when he said that his mother hated him. This woman was a freaking monster. His sister Penny was just as bad. The first meeting with them made it very clear to me. They criticized Saint and called him names the entire time. They didn't even say much to me and ignored me the entire time. His father, Neil, was the only sane person who actually was welcoming towards us. Before we left, he took us aside and said, "I'm so sorry about my wife and daughter's behavior, Jade. They have always hated Saint for no reason. My son is a great man and doesn't deserve those insults. Don't worry, Neil. I know just how amazing Saint is. Neil, I'm sorry he doesn't have a better mom and sister. What can I do, Jade? I have to accept how they are and try to navigate a relationship like this. I know they won't change, but I can't abandon them. Neither can Dad." I could see where they were coming from. Shelley and Penny were completely dependent on Neil for everything. Penny didn't work and had a son out of wedlock. The father is involved, but she has full custody. The father of her son also doesn't want anything to do with Penny due to her insanity. Penny lived off the child support payments that he gave and wasted her father's money on luxuries. It was ironic that Penny made fun of me and Saint for a living like middle-class people. Perhaps it was because Shelley had a similar way of life. Anyway, it was quite clear to me that Shelley and Penny would not be close to us. I refused to be in contact with them much. However, Saint still tried to have a relationship. He was a very affectionate man and always wanted to see good in people. But nothing had prepared him or me for what was to come. It started when I and Saint announced our engagement and tentative wedding date. We went over to the in-laws and told them everything. Neil was super happy for us and literally had tears in his eyes. But Penny and Shelley were not at all happy to hear our announcement. In fact, they looked pissed at us. How could you even think about having a wedding when I'm still single? I'm older than you and should be the first one to marry. That is ridiculous. Penny, getting married is not a competition. You can get married when you finally meet someone. It's not a good reason for me to wait for you. You are the one being ridiculous. My daughter should be the first one to marry. I don't know who gave you the permission to get married before her. We are not children, Shelley. We don't need anyone's permission to get married. Who marries first is not a big deal. When Penny finds her soulmate, she will get her chance too. Jade is right, Shelley. I have no idea why you and Penny are making such a big deal about this. They're not required to sacrifice their wedding because Penny refuses to date realistically. How can you say such things about your own daughter? Neil, you should support our daughter Penny when she's so upset. You're just taking Saint's side and internally mocking Penny. You are a horrible father." Suddenly, Shelley and Neil started to argue about the issue. Penny was simply crying and playing the woe is me card from time to time. Since the attention shifted from me and Saint, we decided to leave them be and go home. Neil would handle the situation. We were positive about it. And if he didn't, we would always try to talk some sense into Shelley and Penny. We didn't hear from Shelley and Penny for a week, so me and my fiancé thought that they were finally over this stupid wedding competition. Oh boy, we were wrong. One day when I was at home after work, Shelley and Penny decided to visit me. They knew that Saint was out of town on business and wanted to catch me alone. I let them in, thinking that we could have a sane discussion about the wedding. "Hey guys, what's up? We haven't heard from you for over a week now. You miss Saint? He's on a business trip to Seattle. We are not here to meet with Saint. We are here to talk to you. I don't care where my useless son is right now. Well, what are you here to talk about? I'm not sure I can be of any help to you too. We are obviously here to talk about your wedding, you dumb woman. Why else would we visit you in your horrible home? We have tried to talk to Neil and Saint about canceling your wedding. It looks like they have no interest in listening to us, so we've come to talk some sense into you. You need to think of your sister-in-law and cancel your wedding." I couldn't believe their freaking audacity. I was naive enough to think that they were here to make peace, but no. Penny and Shelley were here to corner me and get me to cancel the wedding. I don't know in what universe they think I would have agreed to that. These women just kept getting crazier and crazier, but I wasn't the one to be pushed back. I said, and that would be a hard no from me. Whether this wedding will happen or not is completely up to me and Saint. You have presented your points to us, and we don't agree to it. So no, Shelley, we won't cancel our wedding. How can you be so selfish? Shelley and Penny's conversation continued in a disturbing and threatening tone. They spoke about sabotaging the wedding cake with peanut oil, expressing their frustration about Saint not canceling the wedding as they desired. I immediately intervened, feeling a rush of emotions, shock, anger, and fear. What the hell are you doing near our wedding cake? Are you trying to ruin Saint's life? I shouted, trying to control my panic. Shelley smirked. Oh, look who's here, the bridezilla herself. Relax, dear, we're just having a little fun. Isn't that right, Penny? Penny chuckled. Yeah, relax, Jade. It's not like we did anything to the cake. I glared at them. I saw the spray bottle in your hand. You intended to contaminate the cake with peanuts, didn't you? Shelley laughed sarcastically. Oh, come on, it's just a prank. Besides, if your precious Saint is allergic to peanuts, maybe he shouldn't have crossed us. Penny added, exactly, he's brought this upon himself by not considering our feelings. If something happens to him, it's his fault. I was terrified and furious. Without another word, I rushed out of the kitchen to find security. I informed them about the situation, and they promptly escorted Shelley and Penny out of the venue. I then contacted Neil to notify him of their appalling actions. Thankfully, the cake was inspected thoroughly, and no trace of peanut oil was found. We had to order a new cake just to be safe, causing a slight delay. I was distraught, fearing any further attempts by Shelley and Penny to disrupt the wedding. Saint arrived shortly after the chaos had settled. I didn't want to distress him with what had happened, especially right before our ceremony. I managed to keep a calm facade, trying to enjoy the rest of the day. The wedding ceremony itself went by in a blur. I was filled with mixed emotions, joy for marrying the man I loved and anxiety about Shelley, and Penny's potential interference. Fortunately, everything went smoothly without any disruptions. As the reception began, I remained vigilant, ensuring Shelley and Penny were nowhere near the festivities. Neil had managed to keep them away, and the day continued beautifully, surrounded by friends and family who genuinely cared for us. Looking back, despite the fear and tension, our wedding day turned out to be a beautiful celebration of love. Saint and I danced, laughed, and cherished the moment, trying our best to forget about the darkness that Shelley and Penny had attempted to cast over our special day. The wedding ended on a high note, and we departed for our honeymoon, relieved that the ordeal was finally over. Neil had assured us that he would handle Shelley and Penny and make sure they understood the consequences of their actions. In the following weeks, Saint and I focused on our new life together. We agreed to maintain distance from Shelley and Penny for our well-being. Saint underwent therapy to navigate the emotional trauma caused by his family, and I supported him every step of the way. Time passed, and gradually, the scars of that turbulent period began to heal. Saint and I strengthened our bond, learning to prioritize our happiness and peace of mind above the toxic influences of his mother and sister. In the end, our wedding remained a memorable day filled with love, surrounded by those who genuinely cared for us. And despite the challenges, we embarked on our journey forward, united and resilient, leaving behind the shadows of Shelley and Penny's toxicity. Saint and I were horrified by Shelley and Penny's actions. Their attempt to poison our wedding cake with peanut oil, knowing Saint's severe allergy, was beyond malicious. Despite the chaos, I managed to keep Saint away from the contaminated area and called for emergency cleaning to ensure everyone's safety. Just as I was trying to inform Saint about the situation, a loud commotion erupted from the kitchen. Rushing back, I found that Penny's son had consumed a significant portion of the cake and was experiencing an allergic reaction. Despite their past actions, I couldn't let a child suffer, so I directed the necessary emergency response while ensuring Penny's son received immediate medical aid. As Penny and her son left for the hospital, I restrained Shelley, refusing to let her escape without addressing the situation. I confronted her about the incident, demanding an explanation for how nuts ended up in the cake. Shelley denied any involvement and tried to deflect blame onto me, claiming it was intentional to harm Penny's child. I countered, pointing out the security cameras that recorded their malicious actions. Realizing she couldn't escape accountability, Shelley panicked. I had already called the police, and upon their arrival, the truth unraveled. The guests were shocked, and Saint, finally seeing their true colors, severed ties with his mother and sister, vowing to cut off all contact. Amidst the chaos, our wedding continued. The attendees supported us, urging us to proceed despite the distressing events. Neil, Saint's father, encouraged us to continue with the ceremony, and we managed to celebrate amidst the turmoil. Shelley was taken into custody, and the police planned to apprehend Penny once her child's condition stabilized. As the day progressed, Neil initiated divorce proceedings against Shelley, and she was incarcerated. Despite the turbulence, Saint and I finally exchanged vows and began our married life, resolved to move forward without the toxic influence of Shelley and Penny. In the aftermath, Penny faced potential loss of custody and legal repercussions for her actions. Shelley's arrest and incarceration served as a stark reminder of the consequences of her actions, and we focused on building a future free from their toxicity. Our wedding day had been marred by their vile intentions, but Saint and I emerged stronger, supported by loved ones who saw through Shelley and Penny's deceit. Their actions led to their own downfall, while Saint and I forged ahead, determined to leave behind their toxicity and build a happier life together.